The number 4 overall pick so far in draft conversation has gotten the lion's share of the conversation, and understandably so, right? You hope at number 4, the Chicago Bulls are going to walk away with a truly franchise-altering talent. And we'll talk around Caleb Wilson, Cam Boozer, the little bit of stuff that's popped up with Darius, the cuff that shouldn't be there, all that type of stuff. But I'm going to talk about on today's episode why the Chicago Bulls can also walk away with a multi-year starter at number 15. This isn't your usual 15th overall pick. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, the conversation is going to shift to the front office and what the Bulls are doing in actually building a modern front office. And Bryson Graham is off to a great start, and how ownership is actually backing up exactly what they said at the introductory press conference. We'll talk about all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go into this content for today, y'all. So, most of our conversation and most of the conversation around the Bulls in this draft time period, by the way, stop. Hit that subscribe button, right? Since I started saying make sure everybody subscribes at the beginning of the show, subscribers going up crazy, right? Like, so many people think they're subscribed to the channel because I post so often and I'm in their algorithm. I don't mean join memberships. I'm not putting anything behind a paywall. Just hit that subscribe button. Make sure you guys are subscribed. The only truly daily Chicago Bulls channel out there. We post 7 days a week. This is episode 1,805. 1,805 straight daily episodes for the Chicago Bulls. That's not even counting the breaking news episodes. With that said, most of the conversation has been around the number 4 overall pick. And like I said in the intro, it's understandably so. Caleb Wilson, Cam Boozer, it remains the biggest debate, even though the Bulls sit at number 4. So it really comes down to who's going to fall to them at number 4 in that case. And while the Darius Cuff talk may be more, I think, media-driven and fan-brained than actual draft board reality, I hate to tell everybody this that is in the comment section screaming for Darius Cuff. Darius Cuff is not going number 4 overall. It's not happening. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's not happening. And, I get people are so enamored by his scoring, but I'd say this, both Caleb Wilson and Cam Boozer have much more two-way impact. And what do you see throughout the most of the modern NBA? Is two-way bigs, especially wings, right? Forwards, if you have those guys, make much more of an impact than even a guard that's smaller that can score out this world, right? I mean, yes, Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, those are probably two of the better small guards that are really good scorers that, can go off before. But like we've seen this story before. And for many Bulls fans who complained for years about Zach LaVine being a one-way player, not to say that Darius Cuff is the same type of scorer. I think he's a much better decision maker. He's a much smarter passer than Zach LaVine is too. I think that Josh Giddey and Zach LaVine probably are better defenders than Darius Cuff. Probably project to be that way too. Now, that's what it comes down to, right? So I do think it's it's media driven, it's fan brain when it came down to it. And, at the end of the day, it's because I said this on yesterday's episode, because the talk has been so much about the top 4 and the same top 4 that people are introducing a little bit of difference into that with the Darius Cuff thing. Darius Cuff's probably not going number 4. But with that said, I do think that the draft combine showed exactly why there's room to get real depth at number 15. And by that, I don't just mean depth that somebody's going to, I mean, you can get a multi-year starter and even players, I think, with all-star potential at number 4. Defensive player of the year potential. I'm sorry, at number 15. Defensive player of the year potential. And that is where Bryson Graham and this front office that he's built, having these voices and all these scouts and all these draft minds, all these talent evaluators on this team is going to be really important for that, right? So I think the big part about this is to remember that number 4 is the headline, but number 15 may be where Bryson Graham actually shows the depth that he's had in this evaluation process throughout it. So I have a few different tiers in regards to picks at number 15. We're focusing solely on pick number 15 today. We'll probably get into pick number 38 a little bit. But I think you have the high floor options at pick number 15. keep in mind, I'm going to talk about maybe six guys here, possibly at number 15. That isn't even it, right? That's not even it if somebody falls out of the lottery that some people are projected to go in the lottery, right? Which almost happens just about every draft, is that you get a player that's projected to be a lottery pick that ends up falling out because a team reaches or whatever else. I know a lot of Bulls fans are hoping that that could be a Daymar, and it could very well be. I think via most mocks that you're looking at now, Daymar's slated to go in the top 10 or 12. I don't think he necessarily falls to pick number 15. If he does, you can add his name in there. Yaxel Lindenberg. I don't personally think he passes the Thunder, the Golden State Warriors or the Thunder at 11 and 12 there. Again, personally, right? But there's a world in which maybe that could happen if, depending on what happens in draft evaluations and things like that. But with that said, I want to point out the high floor options for the Chicago Bulls, right? The players that I think have the highest floor potentially at pick number 15. And the first guy that I'm going to mention is a guy I've talked a lot about recently, and that's Cameron Carr. Everything that I've seen from Cameron Carr, he continues to stand out as a player that, and not to say that there is an upside there either, but I think he continues, he is a prototypical 3-and-D wing who gives effort on both sides of the ball, and don't let the 3-and-D wing label fool you either. This guy can shoot. He can create some separation as well. This is a guy that I think has all the tools to be a legit 3-level scorer. I think he has the chance to be that. He has a blend of length, athleticism, confidence, the shooting ability, right? The long-term appeal that this guy can be really good. And defensively, continue adding strength in what he turns into there. The flashes that he's already shown defensively, I think, are ridiculous when it comes down to it. And if he continues to develop that side of his game, you're talking about a player that has the upside that I think could be, a player that a more offensive-minded Dyson Daniels. I really think that. I think that he can be that level of player when it all comes down to it. I continue to be impressed with Cameron Carr. I think that he stands out amongst players in that 15 range as that has the most kind of translatable NBA skills right away. Like I said, more than just a 3-and-D guy. I think that the strength development is really going to be key. How does he adapt to the strength that's going to be needed to guard some of these wings and forwards in the NBA? But Cameron Carr has the potential to develop into a player that can guard 4 positions on the court. I really do think that. Some smaller power forwards, but he can guard that. And we've seen even with that, like Alex Caruso can guard for us, and it's not even smaller for us. Hell, they put Alex Caruso on freaking Jokic sometimes, right? Like, I'm not saying that's a tall test to add for Cameron Carr, but the potential for him there as a two-way player and 3-level scorer is legitimate. And, I think that people kind of overlook that. I've seen people who don't really do their own research. They've said like, oh, well, he's a Zach LaVine type. It's like, Cameron Carr is who Zach LaVine, you hope Zach LaVine's going to be. I'm not saying that Cameron Carr is going to be able to score as much as Zach LaVine, but with the impact on offense and defense, much greater impact when it comes down to that one. The way he impacts both sides of the ball, Cameron Carr is somebody that has to stand out in this case. And I love Cameron Carr. I love what he looks like, how he can turn into as a player. I think that he's really good there. The other player that I'm putting here in the high floor options is Haize Steinbach. I think that what this guy brings physicality-wise at that big position, he's a big, physical, skilled big man who plays with maturity. He's composed when it comes down to it. He's also somebody who very much so understands his strengths as a player. And I think there's something to be said about players who understand their strengths. A legit 6'11", over 240 pounds. He averaged 18 points per game, so that shows that he can do some of that scoring. Now, defensively, he's not going to switch a lot. But I think when you look at just a big who knows what job to do, average between steals and blocks, he averaged 2.5 stocks, 1.2 blocks, 1.1 steals. But this is a guy that I think, again, a two-way player, really high floor that, maybe he doesn't turn into an everyday starter for you. I think that he has the potential to do that, especially depending on the offense that's around it. But even if not, you can see a world in which Haize Steinbach is on benches for 8-10 years in the NBA and probably the first big man off the bench at minimum. And higher than that, he definitely has the ceiling to turn into a starting big for you at the next level. I believe that with Haize Steinbach. I think if he expands his range with that jump shot, I think that he has all the tools to be a highly effective player in the front court for years and years and years to come. So those two guys are the guys that I'm marking that has the highest floor options there for the Chicago Bulls with still. And I think when you get to that ceiling and floor, let me slow down to explain this for a second. When somebody says somebody has a lower ceiling, that doesn't mean that what they could turn into doesn't mean all-star. It just means usually that, hey, they have a bunch of NBA ready skills right now. So I don't know how many more skills they're going to add, but they can still refine those skills, which can take them further. That's what high floor means, right? So when you hear somebody say they have a lower floor, a lower ceiling, it just means, hey, they have so many skills that are developed right now. I don't know how many more skills they're going to add, but the caliber of player that they can turn into can still be very high with what they have. When you hear high floor, it means that the lowest that this player can go is being this type of player. And I think Haize, Steinbach, and Cameron Carr offer two really high floor players for this. So Carr may be the type of wing that every modern team in the NBA really needs and wants. And Steinbach feels like the type of mature big man who can give you real minutes sooner and rather than later, like some big men have to kind of wait to develop. I think Haize Steinbach can be somebody that can play a lot of minutes for you very early on. Think about it like this. I think Haize can be like a modern Taj Gibson with a little bit more offensive skill. So there you go. And not necessarily as good switchably defensively as what Taj was either. So there you kind of go on that one. But then let's get into the bigs, right? There are two bigs here in this that are, one's a more modern big, another one is kind of a, different, right? Cenac Jr. is the modern skilled big man, right? This guy is mobile. He's skilled. The two-way upside is legitimately there for him. He defends the rim really well, even though he doesn't get a number of blocks. People hear rim protection automatically be like, but he only averaged such and such blocks. When I say defend the rim, I mean actually also stop play. Part of rim protection is also stopping people from being able to even get towards the rim to get a shot off. Cenac Jr. has that form of rim protection where he, and with his big body and stuff like that, he can do that. He can also switch out onto the perimeter. He can rebound. He can finish. He can stretch the floor as well, right? And then when you look at his ability to dribble almost like a guard at times, this guy has all the modern skill that you there. The problem with Cenac Jr. is consistency, right? So that's what you have in regards to that one. But if the Bulls are looking big, if they go into this 15th pick and their mindset is we're going to take a big, which with Bryson Graham drafting, I'm pretty sure we're going to go best player available or whatever. But if they really just want a big, a moldable big that may not be ready to start right away, but we'll see, right? Cenac Jr. is a guy that I love. I think he's going to be a long-term center in this league. There's some questions that some people have about his toughness. I think that he'll grow and adapt to that as his career goes on. I'm pretty sure that. But I like Cenac Jr. He's also one of my favorite players in this draft. And then Morez Johnson. You talk about somebody who brings toughness, rebounding, physicality, efficient finishing around the rim. His role right away is high floor front court contributor, right? This is a guy that he's going to have, like his guards are going to have to create a lot for him, but I think as a lob threat, as a rim protector, just being tough around the rim, I can see Morez Johnson being a guy who sticks around the league, becomes, a team, some fans' favorite player because of that. His offense is limited. I want to be clear that the offensive bag there for him is very limited, but his high motor, his rebounding, his activity around the rim, all those type of things, I think point towards Morez Johnson having such a really good combination of floor and ceiling there that it'd be hard to pass up on him. I think that the value he's going to have is that interior defense that he can bring. He can battle on the block. He knows how to move in space. He's a very smart player as well. Morez Johnson is somebody that really stands out, and it has nothing to do. Notice, in all the things that I pointed out, I didn't even care that he's from Chicago. I don't care about that because looking at the player, there's so much more that stands out about the type of player that he is that it doesn't even matter he's from Chicago or not. Of course, that's an added bonus, but I think that Morez Johnson has the chance to be a dog in this league and one of those big guys that even if he does only end up averaging 8, 10, maybe 12 points per game, that what he does in a combination of rebounding, defense, all that type of stuff, he could bring a very big added wrinkle to a Bulls team that has been lacking those things for a long time. So Morez Johnson, a guy that I absolutely love at number 15. And I think, Cenac would be more of an upside swing. Morez be more of a physical high floor option there with the big. But I think the question is, what type of front court do you want to build, right? And what type of front court is Bryson Graham trying to piece together here? But I think those are two guys that can very well, you can walk away if you get Cam Boozer, Caleb Wilson, and you get your center in this draft, you can have your front court locked in between Modest, Cam Boozer, or Caleb Wilson, and then getting your center option in this draft. That can really be something that you really do. So we'll see what Bryson Graham wants to do. Then the next tier of players that I have are the reward swings in this one. The first one, Jayden Quaintance. Like, this is a guy that I think has rare tools defensive instincts, length, athleticism, all that. I keep saying every time Jayden Quaintance pops up in conversation is that if it wasn't for the injuries, this guy would be a top 10 to 12 pick. And so therefore, you may want to be, you may be willing to take the risk on that because the floor is so high for Quaintance that it is ridiculous. He's also shown flashes of touch around the rim. The passing has looked solid for him as well. And I do think that he has shown some upsides of turning into somebody who can stretch the floor out 10 to 12 feet, right? Not every stretch big has to be a three-point shooter, but 10 to 12 feet on that jump shot. The health is the biggest swing factor here for him. If the medicals check out, he can be one of the best upside swings and bets that you can make at 15 because if it ends up working out, you can get you a dog. But if it doesn't work out, you can end up being Robert Williams, right? In the sense that when he's on the court, we see how he can impact, but he doesn't stay on the court a lot. So there's definitely that. The medicals are going to be such an important part of how you view Jayden Quaintance and how he's evaluated in that point in time. Let's hope that he can get it done. I hope that he can. Again, and that's in the NBA, even if the Bulls don't draft him. When you hear this kid talk, this is a soft-spoken kid, actually. It's actually like almost crazy how when you see him play versus the soft-spokenness that he has. But when he's on that court, he's a dog. And this is a kid that really does love the game of basketball. You get that feeling from him. He's not somebody that just played basketball because he's big. I think he really does have a legitimate love for the game, and I wouldn't mind him being a Bulls jersey at all. And then a guy that I got to give you guys credit for, guys that you guys have brought up and asked me to research and look into, and at pick number, now I will say this, there's a chance that he goes to the second round. There are some mocks that say that he could be early second round, but Dailyn Swain, this is a guy, when you look at 6'8", 225 pounds, has the two-way with good size. You know, he went to Xavier, right? So that comes down to that one. And I think when you look at it as well, he came out of Texas, but before that he was in Xavier. I do think that this guy in transition could score like crazy. His passing keeps teams connected. I do think that there's a lack of shooting there for him, and he does have kind of inconsistency where he kind of fades away on the offensive side of the ball some, but his decision-making as a passer, those type of things that he has there. I also think that if you trust that he can develop a reliable jumper, I think that he has all the tools to be a really good NBA. I'd say this, some of his tools actually translate better in the NBA than what they did in college, right? Dailyn Swain is a guy that I think, he could be like a guard wing version of Taj Gibson in a way, right? Like where you drafted Taj and Taj had the really high floor and he ended up turning into a really solid player. I think that, right? I think the two-way ability of Dailyn Swain definitely makes him stand out as something. And I think he's the type of player that you end up valuing on your team as you're building a team. Now, is he going to be a consistent starter? Some questions there, right? That's why he could fall to the second round. I'll tell you this, if he falls to the second round, definitely will pick him up if he's there at number 38. But there's another guy that definitely interests me there at number 15 as well that I think you really. So to review all of this, the Bulls have options here between Cam Carr, Haize, Steinbach as the high floor guys. The bigs in Morez Johnson and Cenac Jr. And then you have your risk players in Quaintance and Swain. I love the opportunity that we have here. We just got to see if it's going to work out and how Bryson Graham evaluates these guys. But let me know what you guys think down below. Who are some players that have stood out to you that could go there at number 15 for the Chicago Bulls? Let me know that down below. With that said, now I know I got the episodes out. I got the podcasts out. I did get of course, the breaking news videos out. But the Chicago Bulls yesterday added to their front office Stephen Mervis and AC Law, right? Stephen Mervis is joining as Bryson Graham's right-hand man. He is the senior VP of basketball operations to go next to Bryson Graham's, executive vice president of basketball operations. So there you go there. AC Law was hired as the VP of player personnel. Mervis spent 12 years with Orlando, worked himself up through there. He's known as a guy that's strategy, cap management, player evaluation, and he has tons of connections reportedly around the league as well. AC Law brings the scouting, the draft evaluation, the player experience, and also coming from OKC as well in that. Now, I know that he was a former teammate with Bryson Graham, and some people have used that to say, well, Bryson only hired him because he was a former teammate. And I actually have the flip side of perspective of that. I think he only left OKC because he has the relationship with Bryson Graham, and of course he got the promotion. But if OKC Thunder are the gold standard of modern NBA team building, the fact that they hired him in the year before they won a title, which means that he would have evaluated some of the players that they've drafted there over the last couple of years, I actually look at that as a positive, right? And so I think that right now, what we're happening in regards to this one is that this front office is looking like it's going to be more layered, more collaborative, and this isn't just about hiring names. This is about Bryson Graham building the room that's going to help him make the decisions. And this is something that he talked about at his press conference, is not needing to be the smartest man in the room, wanting to have people office where everybody's voice is heard and everybody has a say in the decisions. Of course, the ultimate final decision comes down to Bryson Graham, but you have these voices in the room that are going to be helping to make those decisions. That's what I think the Bulls are doing. And more so, I think that this shows that the Bulls are finally modernizing. Bryson Graham said that building out the front office was a top priority. He's showing that. Michael Reinsdorf also said that Bryson Graham would have the ability to build the front office how he sees fit and that he would have all the resources to do that. So far, it's doing that. This front office build is looking less traditional than what the Bulls have had before. Keep in mind, with this, we may not have somebody with the GM role. We may not have that. Now, that could happen, but we could not have that. This is looking more like a front office that's building to look more like OKC, more like Boston, with multiple key voices in that decision-making process, which is good, right? And I'll say this, if nothing else that came out of the Acme era was that Acme era ended up being a wake-up call for ownership, namely Michael Reinsdorf, on how they need to do it, I'd say this, it was well worth it, right? Now, this is just the process part. So now they are setting themselves up to have the proper processes, to have the proper eyes, to have the proper voices. We still need to see the results, right? So until the results happen, it does look like the process is going to be more modern in how we're getting there, right? I keep saying it. That's the thing that could have come out of this Acme era, was that ownership's finally waking up, and then maybe the pain of going through that Acme era for Bulls fans ends up being worth it if this is the results that we're going to end up getting. So let's see what's going to happen in regards to that one. But love this. Love where the Bulls are headed. Things are looking like they're going in the right direction. We just got to bring it all home, start seeing the results, and this draft is one of the first opportunities to do that. Let's see if we start hearing about the coaching search sooner rather than later as well. You know that Bryson Graham did say that this was going to be the week he starts putting those candidate lists together. I wonder if the voices that he just hired are going to have any say in that, but we're going to see, right? But that's going to do it for today's episode, y'all. Today was really taking attention away from the number 4 and talking about how the Chicago Bulls can still add impact players at number 15. Cameron Carr, Haize Steinbach, Cenac Jr, Morez Johnson, Jayden Quaintance, Dailyn Swain. These are names that Bulls fans really need to know because they're an option here at number 15 for the Bulls. Of course, it's all up to the front office, and we'll see what this front office ends up doing with this, having those voices in there, because we're still in show me mode. And it's time for this front office and the Chicago Bulls as a whole to show and prove. Let's hope that they can get that done. But thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You guys can follow us at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number 1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like we like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you ready if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.